It's easily one of Nashville's most recognizable landmarks. The Parthenon has been a part of this city for more than 100 years.
Nashville, when approached about the idea of celebrating Tennessee's 100th birthday, said, okay, we'll participate. We will build the art building for the exposition, and we'll build it as a copy of the Parthenon to remind everybody that we are the Athens of the South. So they did, and all the buildings that were built for the exposition were built to be temporary. That's fairly typical of World's Fairs and expositions, but when it was over, people in Nashville had fallen in love with the Parthenon and said, wait, you can't tear down the symbol of our city. So they left it standing, and there was a period of time when nobody was sure exactly what was going to happen with it. The newly formed Parks Department purchased the exposition grounds in 1902, and then they had this building that had been built to be temporary, and it was used for some art exhibitions, but it was covered in plaster, and all the sculpture, all the decorative work on the outside was not was falling apart. So in 1920, they said, it's time to do something. Fortunately for those of us who live today, they decided to make it permanent. The inside of the building, where we are now, where the giant statue of Athena is, for the exposition was a series of galleries for exhibiting the art, and the building was an exterior replica only. In the 20s, they thought, we'd like this to be a complete replica, inside, outside, but we don't want to give up exhibiting art. So what they did was make the inside a recreation as near as scholarship could get it to what we think it looked like in antiquity, inside and outside, and then finished off gallery space below ground, as it were. And so we continue to exhibit art. We have permanent collections and temporary exhibitions, and we have this incredible interior-exterior recreation of the ancient Parthenon. It's the only place in the world where you can see what the ancient Greeks intended. I mean, there's no substitute for going to Athens and seeing the marble, the ruins. I mean, they're picturesque, and they have this long history post-classical time. But this is the only place in the world where you can see what it might have looked like in antiquity.
Do you ever get visitors from Athens, Greece, to visit the Parthenon here in Nashville?
Yes, we do get people from all over the world, including Greece, and the ones who come here are just blown away that anybody would care enough about their history, their civilization, to recreate something as faithfully as this one is done in particular. They are thrilled.
If someone has never been here ever, or maybe let's just say they want to come for the first time, what kinds of things can they expect to see both on the first floor and on the second floor?
On the main level, which is where we are now, which is actually the second floor from where you enter, you see the interior of the ancient Parthenon with the colossal statue of Athena, who is covered in gold. In antiquity, she was plated in gold, and that scholars figure would be about 2,000 pounds. We have real gold, but it's gold leaf, so it's very, very thin and only about 8 or 8.5 pounds. You can see what an ancient Greek might have seen had he or she come to the door. We don't think people came in here inside much in antiquity. On the entry level, which is below us, there are exhibitions about the exposition for which the Parthenon was built in Nashville. There are galleries, art galleries with permanent collections and changing exhibitions. So there's always old friends for you to see, as well as something new to see.
What about Athena? Tell me a little bit about the history of this woman. Who was she, and why was she such a symbolic figure of that period?
Athena is one of the major Olympian deities to the ancient Greeks. She was the goddess of wisdom, prudent warfare, and the useful arts. So in that guise of prudent warfare, she's almost always depicted armored. Now, if, as in the case of the Athena Parthenos inside here, if she has won the battle, then the visor of her helmet is lifted, her spear and shield are at rest. And in our case, she has Nike, or victory, the goddess of victory, in her hand. So this building in antiquity was a giant thank you gift to the goddess Athena, because they believed that she had been instrumental in their eventual victory over the Persians, who'd been trying to take over what we know as Greece now. This is only one of at least three statues to Athena that we know were in place on the Acropolis in antiquity. This one was the civic goddess, the one that they felt like protected their city.
Now, how long did it take to build this statue? And tell me, like, what all material-wise is involved here?
The statue in the Nashville Parthenon was commissioned in the fall of 1982, unveiled in May of 1990, so it took almost 8 years. And even then, the only gold on it was on the base, so it took another 12 years to fundraise and put the gold and paint on her to make her as near as possible like the one we believe was in the ancient Parthenon. And that happened in the summer of 2002. So she is 42 feet tall. She is made of a gypsum cement, kind of like plaster of Paris, with chopped fiberglass as a reinforcing material. She's built on a steel armature that goes from inside the statue through the floor, through the gallery below us, through that floor, into bedrock. She is not going anywhere.
What is the reaction when people see her for the first time?
It's usually just either stunned silence or, oh, wow. I mean, it's just kind of impressive.
Most certainly, most certainly. Well, what else, as far as like paintings, are there still paintings in the Parthenon here? And if so, what's the history behind the paintings, I guess?
We have several collections among our permanent collections. The one that is out all the time is the James Cowan collection of American art. Mr. Cowan grew up in Middle Tennessee, but spent his adult years in Illinois as an insurance, in the Northwestern Insurance Company, I believe. And he spent his discretionary income collecting art. When he visited the Centennial Exposition and had a great time, he was warmly welcomed. He, I think, reconnected with family and felt some awareness of roots and family obligation, and the fact that Nashville was the closest city to have nurtured his family. So as he neared the end of his life, he found out that the Parthenon was being rebuilt, and he sent a letter through his dealership in New York to the mayor and the council of the city and said, if you will build a fireproof gallery for it, and if you will respect my anonymity until I'm dead, I will give part of my art collection to the Parthenon in the city of Nashville. And the mayor and the council said, well, yeah, I think we can do those things. Yeah. So the only sad thing about that is that he died in 1930, and the Parthenon wasn't ready to be opened until 1931. So he never saw his work exhibited here, his paintings, but they were exhibited elsewhere in Nashville as they arrived, and there was great newspaper coverage, so he was aware that the people of Nashville were very appreciative, very excited about the gift. So those paintings are tightly focused. They're all by American artists, either people who were born in the U.S. or people who came here and spent a good bit of their painting career here. Winslow Homer is probably the best known name. There are Pennsylvania Impressionists, there are Hudson River School painters. It's a really fine collection, not terribly well known. And it's small, there are only 63 pieces, and we have about 2/3 of those out all the time.
How successful would you say this building is today, as far as getting visitors to come in on a regular basis? I mean, do you all do pretty good business after all these years?
We do do good business, and Nashville's increasing popularity and visibility countrywide, worldwide, has increased our visitorship. We have gone, in the last 2-3 years, we've been up over 200,000 visitors a year, which it was a big jump. We were used to having and thrilled to have 100,000 or 150,000 visitors. When it suddenly jumped to 200,000, it was a little scary and wonderful. So school children come, visitors from all over the country, all over the world. We happen to be, and this may be partly why Nashville is receiving so much attention now, but we're at a good crossroads. We're at easy access with interstate, and it's just, and we're in a beautiful place too. I mean, geographically, the weather's pretty nice most of the time. So, and now that we've got not only the music industry, but the TV show, and we're becoming known as a food city, which is very exciting, especially for those of us who live here, get to try new food all the time.
I guess final question might be, how glad are you that the Nashville forefathers all those years ago decided to make this a permanent place?
I can't tell you how excited I am about that. Replicas are out of fashion, and had they not made the decision to make this building permanent as long ago as the 1920s, I don't think it would ever have happened. I don't think this is something that would occur to people as a good way to spend the city's money today. And I am deeply grateful. There was a time when I worried about whether we were kitsch or not, like the Las Vegas miniatures of things like this. But I have learned that that is not the case here. This is, even though we know there's some things, now we know as scholarship moves on, that there are things that aren't quite right. This is a building where great scholarship was involved in the making of it, and there was great attention paid to detail and to getting it right, as near as scholarship was made available then. So it performs a really good service. Since so much of Western civilization is rooted in ancient Greece and Rome, it tells us so much about our own societal origins. And our director of education is fond of saying, there is no subject you need to teach that you can't use the Parthenon as a teaching tool. And that may be an exaggeration, but it isn't much of one. We're still studying their literature, their architecture, their sculpture and art, their form of government, their physics and math. It's a remarkable teaching tool.
If you would like to visit the Parthenon, the hours are 9 to 4:30, Tuesday through Saturday, and 12:30 to 4:30 on Sunday. Admission is $6 for adults and $4 for children ages 4 through 17. Children under the age of 4 receive free admission. Reporting from Centennial Park in Nashville, Barry Hyatt, NCTV.